Seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is 9 o'clock on Friday, and you are watching me, Deb Burton, Executive Director of RI Elder Info and the host of the weekly Friday Friends streaming podcast, where we bring you information that you or someone you know needs to know about. So please make sure you hit the like, the share, the bells, the whistles, all the social media cues that say, hey, check this out. We're having a very interesting conversation today with Kelly Nevins from the Women's Fund of Rhode Island. So I want to make sure that you get this information out to as many people as you can. Now, as you all know, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we could not do this without the support of our sponsors. So a huge thank you to Point 32 Health Foundation, United Healthcare, and especially McCarthy Law. Here's a message from McCarthy Law.
Here at McCarthy Law, we practice in the areas of estate planning, long-term care planning, elder care law, and residential real estate. Our focus is really on providing peace of mind to our clients.
If you're interested in scheduling a consultation with our office, you can feel free to reach out to us at 401-541-5540. You can also reach out via website at www.mccarthylawri.com. You also should check out our social media, both on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for some helpful tips and tricks.
Welcome, Kelly. How are you?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Kelly Nevins, Executive Director of the Women's Fund of Rhode Island, please tell us, what is it that you do and what is the Women's Fund of Rhode Island?
Yeah, so I am the CEO of the Women's Fund of Rhode Island, and I only say the name to differentiate from executive director because often women who lead nonprofit organizations have the title executive director, and often men have the title CEO, and yet the job is exactly the same. Okay. So my board gave me the title of CEO to recognize that more women need to be in the C-suite, and if the job is the same, then I should be accorded the same title. So
I love that. I don't think I ever really realized the difference there, and that is awesome. I love it.
Right. So Women's Fund of Rhode Island's been around since 2001. Our mission is to invest in women and girls, and we do that through research, which looks at how women and girls fare in the state of Rhode Island. We use that as a fact-based platform to advocate for primarily state-level legislative change. And we are also a grant maker. And we just have this teeny tiny little goal, which is to achieve gender equity through systemic change. And really
that's a little goal.
Oh, yeah, right. We'll solve it tomorrow. Maybe not. Anyway, really what we're trying to do is make sure that everybody has equitable opportunity to thrive. And the way that I think about this, Deb, is, I grew up in the 70s. My mom was a single mom. She had 3 young daughters to take care of. At the time she would be working and one of us would get sick and she'd have to stay home from work to care for us because there wasn't affordable nearby daycare. Besides, we were supposed to be in school, so being sick was a surprise. And then, she'd lose a job because there wasn't that safety net that was there. And often she was working in jobs that didn't pay a whole lot of money or give a lot of benefits. And instead, if somebody got a promotion, it often was a man because he, quote, had a family to care for, as if somebody like my mom didn't. And what I realized over my lifetime is, that there are these systems that are in place that we don't always see that hold some people back and prevent them from thriving. And that's really what the Women's Fund is all about, is trying to find ways to make sure that everybody has what they need and has equitable opportunity to be successful. So yeah, that's what we do.
So I think sometimes people are not clear on what equity means. So maybe provide a little bit of an explanation of equity, and if everybody is given the equal
Yep.
chance at things, then isn't that the same?
Right. Example. I'm a cyclist, right? So I'll use bicycles as an example. If you have equality, everybody gets the same bike.
Okay.
However, if you don't know this about me because you don't see me in person, you don't know that I am a short person. And so if I'm getting the same size bike as, somebody who maybe is 6 feet tall, a whole foot bigger than me, that big bike is not going to work for me. I need a bike that's more for my size. There are bikes where people who can't use their legs, maybe are using their hands to pedal, bikes that give them the same opportunity, but look a little bit different based on their ability. Equality is everybody gets the same bike. Equity is everybody gets what they need to achieve the same thing. So
Got it.
that's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would imagine even within that, there's differentiators. So you and I might be about the same height last time I saw you. And I'm going to take a wild bet that you would be able to ride much further than I could because you have a lot more experience.
Sure. So maybe some
In
people,
that, there's
people
differentiation.
may need an e-bike that gives them a little extra oomph. Some people might be better balanced on a tricycle, for example. I love the adult tricycles, by the way. I think that they are so cool. And every time there's a woman in our neighborhood who uses one, and I'm just like, oh, she looks like she's having such a good time. But again, it's all based on, what gives people the best access to do the things that they want to do. Yeah.
And as you look at the systems that maybe need some tweaking or change or are really good, what do you see in Rhode Island that works and isn't working for equity for women?
Yeah, well, so if I could, I'd love to talk about a win that we had. This was a win just a couple of years ago as part of our advocacy work. We are working on women's economic security within the state. And most people know that there is an equal pay law that was passed in, I think, the 70s. But that law was very narrowly interpreted by the courts, where if there was even just a word or two difference in a job description, even though it didn't really change the nature of the job, that could be used as the basis for paying somebody significantly different than somebody else. And so just a few years ago, together with our folks in the General Assembly, we helped to pass a law called the Fair Pay Act. And what this Fair Pay Act did, number one, is it made it illegal for employers to ask what your previous salary was before extending you a job offer. And because women have historically been paid less than men to do things, if they were only ever going to get an increase over what they previously made, they weren't ever going to catch up to men's salaries. So it made it illegal to use that as a practice to set salary ranges. And secondly, what it did is it said that people should be paid the same for comparable work. And the way that I explained this when I'd be up at the State House testifying was, imagine that you had two newspaper editors, but one of them was working on sports and the other was working on arts and culture. They both had the same amount of nights and weekends that they were working. They had to write the same amount of words. They had the same, qualifications and experience. But in the old way, you could still pay the sports editor significantly more than the arts and culture editor for the same work. Now you can't do that. You have to, the way that you would differentiate pay would be on if they worked, different shifts. Maybe you want to pay somebody more to work a night shift because it's harder to hire for that. If they had more experience, if their production was more, if they had different skill sets that were really important, like a master's degree for the type of work, or they spoke another language, and that was important to the work. These would all be reasons why you could pay somebody different for comparable jobs. So that's the type of systems that we are trying to dismantle and help create a landscape where everybody can thrive with.
And I like the creativity of the approach that you can't ask what you used to get paid. It is, what is the value of the job that needs to be done?
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's so, that's an interesting way to look at it. And it makes far better sense than what does that individual as themselves, like, what did you get paid? So then therefore that's what your dollar value is.
Right.
And it's the pay equity, I feel, is one of the things that is not talked about as often as it should be, and the way that it impacts women as we get older.
Right.
That if we were making, what was it, 70 cents for every dollar a man made,
right,
that means, for example, your mom's Social Security now
right,
is going to be lower, even though she may have been at the maximum pay rate.
Absolutely. So I also teach salary negotiation classes, and what I when I do those classes, I talk about how women, on average, over the course of their 40-year work lifetime, lose approximately $500,000 over the course of their lifetime to the wage gap, the gender wage gap. And then, of course, that slides into part of what you're talking about, which is the gender wealth gap. If you're not able to make as much money over the course of your lifetime, it means that you can't save as much money, that you have a harder time getting things like buying a house or a car that would be considered assets that could be used later in life to make sure that you have enough to pay for the things that you need. And of course, women live longer on average as well. So their smaller amounts of money need to last longer amounts of time. Yes, so we're working again to achieve equity to ensure that women don't live in poverty. Yeah.
And there's a certain reality that it wasn't until I think off the top of my head, and you might know this right away, the 70s, that a woman could buy a house on her own.
Oh, right. I'm old enough to remember that, when credit cards started to become a thing, that initially women couldn't even get a credit card without their husband co-signing. I'm glad that things have changed, but they haven't changed fast enough. And so there are a lot of things that we work on advocacy wise. Today, we're of course very concerned about what may happen to Social Security, what may happen to Medicaid and Medicare. Certainly with the housing shortage across the nation, but also in Rhode Island, these are things that we're paying attention to and trying to find ways to work with community leaders and legislators to find ways to make sure that our oldest citizens can be taken care of appropriately.
No, I appreciate that, because those are things that are really important to RI Elder Info, is to really elevate that message that Medicare, Medicaid, housing, that's across the age spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And there are definitely disparities within the individual groups. So I really appreciate your work and your data and your research on this, and the way of thinking sometimes differently in order to get equity.
Yeah.
So for all the cool stuff you're doing, how can people support you? What's coming up for you next? How can people engage with the Women's Fund of Rhode Island?
Sure. Well, we are moving into a somewhat slower part of our year. That doesn't mean things stop, but we're having a little bit less of events. We did this year institute a new feminist activist book club, the Fab Club, where every 6 weeks or so, a different book gets read, and we alternate between a nonfiction book and a fiction book that has some theme that's around women's issues. We just read the book All About Love by Bell Hooks, so a nonfiction book. In May, that next book will be The Women by Kristen Hanna. But I don't have the exact date of the book club. It's sometime in May. And we are doing it as a hybrid event. So if folks can't participate in person, there is a Zoom option to be part of the discussion. And so if folks want to find out more about that book club, they can email us at info@wfri.org. We are actually recruiting candidates for our next Women's Policy Institute, which is a 9-month training program that teaches people who are interested in feminist policy to be advocates, grassroots advocates at the state level. And there's no age restriction on this program. It is a commitment of time and of resource. So we are starting to recruit the next class that will start in late August. They meet one day a month, a Friday from 9 until 4. This is for somebody who wants to be active at the State House in advocating for important issues. So if they want to learn more, again, info@wfri.org. Later this year, we'll be hosting our Toast to Tenacity, which is a celebration of the passage of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. As well as our Women Leading Change celebration that takes place in September, which is always such a lovely, fancy event that honors women leaders. We're always looking for sponsors. Certainly donations of any type are always welcome to support our work. Be happy to talk more with anybody who wants to learn more about what our opportunities are out there to support us.
That's awesome. And I'm sure volunteers and sharing on social media and all those other fun things too.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, while we are taping this particular interview, we're going through something called 401 Gives, and we have a bunch of volunteers who are in the office who are helping us to make phone calls, both to ask for donations and to thank donors. So volunteers are very much part of the work that we do.
That is awesome. Well, Kelly, I know you've got a lot going on, so I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just thanks to all your listeners out there for listening to us. And please do contact us if you'd like to learn more.
And that's WFRI.org or 401-262-5657. Perfect. Thank you. Everybody, the Women's Fund of Rhode Island is doing some really amazing work, and it is work that is impacting all of us. In particular, as we get older, pay equity now is going to make a difference later. And it's super important that we educate ourselves and others about these really important topics. So I am very glad that you've all hit the like, the share, the bells, the whistles for social media to get the word out about this very important topic. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. In the meantime, be well and be kind.
If you like this video, please follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. For more information, visit rielderinfo.com or call 401-585-0509. If you have any questions, email deb@rielderinfo.com.